Hello, and as we get started, please know that Minnesota 4-H sincerely thanks you for stepping into this important role of checking in 4-H animals at your county fair. Your job will involve looking at animals, looking at data, making lots of notes, and communicating closely with 4-H staff. But above all, your job is to make the animal check-in process a positive 4-H learning experience for the youth. On the other hand, it will not be your job to enforce, interpret, or make judgments about policy and/or consequences. The first thing your county staff will provide you with is a checklist and process guide that will contain the same information as this video, but with more detail. Another important piece you will need is the ID data for the animals you will be checking in. This is the animal ID info that was submitted by families when they ID'd their animals. In some cases, you'll have a check-in report on paper that lists all the animals ID'd in a particular species or animal type. In other cases, you will be accessing the animal ID data through FairEntry. If you'll be using FairEntry, you will want to watch the video dealing specifically with using FairEntry for animal review and check-in. You will also have reference materials related to the animal type you're working with, including animal information sheets, a copy of your county's ID letter, and your county fair's premium book. This check-in mission has three primary objectives. First, you will be checking to see if the animals arriving at your county fair have met the ID requirements of Minnesota 4-H. Secondly, you will be pre-screening animals that may end up going to the state fair. Thirdly, and most importantly, you will be doing everything possible to make the check-in process a positive 4-H learning experience. So, how to do all this? First, you will locate the animal identifier on the animal. This might be a 4-H ear tag, a tattoo, or the name and birth date of the animal. Then, you'll need to find that animal on the check-in report or in FairEntry by searching on the member's first or last name or by looking at their entry. If the animal is not on the check-in report or in FairEntry, that becomes your first ID issue to make note of. Later on, we'll talk about how to respond to issues. You will need to see if the 4-H'er's name on the animal in the ID data is the person who will be showing that animal. If not, the person exhibiting the animal needs to be a sibling who is part of that family. Otherwise, this becomes another issue requiring follow-up. If you are using the paper printout, you will need to indicate any sibling changes on the ID printout. If you'll be using FairEntry, you only need to make sure that the correct animal is attached to the entry. If necessary, you'll add the correct animal or make other changes as necessary. Next, check the ID data in more detail. Does all the identifying data match? This may vary, but could include an ear tag or tattoo numbers, ear notches, and/or a photo. If you are working with dairy, horse, or dog, you will have photos to work with. You may be checking the ID photos in any of several different ways, depending upon how your county has things set up. You might be checking photos online in 4-H Online or online in FairEntry. You might have the photos stored on a computer provided to you, or you might have printed photos to work with. Your county staff will provide you with more details on how this will work. Some animals have very specific date ranges that they must be born in. For details, reference the animal information sheet, which lists acceptable animal date of birth ranges. In some counties, the animal lease agreements will have been checked prior to the fair, and in other counties you will need to check these lease agreements as the animals are being checked in. Your county 4-H staff will let you know what's needed in your case. If your county offers registered show classes, you will need to check registration papers. You will need to verify that the owner and the exhibitor names properly match or take into account a lease agreement. You will also need to check the animal identifier data like ear tags or tattoos, plus the animal's date of birth. Note that all pending registrations must be complete by the time of the show. If registration papers do not fully line up, the exhibitor may choose to simply show in a non-registered class. Otherwise, it becomes an issue that needs to be recorded and shared with 4-H staff. If you are checking in market animals, you will also likely be collecting animal weights. Your county staff will inform you about how your county will be collecting and recording weights. In some counties, your role will include verifying county fair registrations. Up until now, the focus has been on the ID status of the animal. In this step, you will be bringing in a new piece of information. That is, what show class or classes the member are signed up for. Your county may have you ask members about any drops they have, class changes needed, etc. Record this information on paper forms or directly in FairEntry as instructed by your county staff. So what do you do if there are issues or questions uncovered during this process? Above all, stay friendly and encouraging to the exhibitor. The county fair process can be overwhelming and stressful even when there are no issues or problems, especially for new exhibitors. Unless there is an animal health issue, allow the family to unload, weigh, and stall their animal. Allow them to do whatever all the other exhibitors are doing. Do not enter into a conflict about the issue. Your job is to find and document issues, not to resolve issues. But there are two exceptions. As a volunteer, you are authorized to resolve, but along with documenting, these two issues. First, you can reverse ear notches from left to right. The ear notch numbers themselves must not change, but only flip between the right ear and the left ear. Secondly, if there was a gender mix-up in the ID data, male to female, or vice versa, that is another one you can resolve. This would mostly apply to things like market lambs or market beef. Again, be sure to document the change. On the other hand, there are several ID issues that you cannot resolve. Your role is entirely in documenting the following kinds of issues. First of all, any discrepancies in ear tags, tattoos, or photos, birth dates, etc. This includes lost or missing tags or other information. Secondly, any questions or discrepancies related to ownership, lease agreements, and/or registration papers. And third, any animals that are being exhibited that are not on the check-in report or found in 4-H Online or FairEntry. In order to help track and communicate with 4-H staff about issues you uncover, a log sheet is provided. All issues should be recorded on this sheet, which together with notes you make on the check-in report or in FairEntry will become the authoritative source of information for 4-H County staff to proceed with. Please add as many details as possible when you fill out this log sheet. Use as many lines and additional pages as necessary. Also note that in some species, for example dairy, the notes you make and issues you uncover can have a carryover impact into future years. So clear documentation and clear notes are critical. You are also being asked to clearly and professionally communicate with the family about any issues or questions that are uncovered and what follow-up they can expect. To help with that, a family letter template will be provided to you. Fill in the information requested on the form as completely as possible. Make sure that you give this to the family and that they understand what you have written. And once again, please be friendly and supportive when working with families. It is stressful and difficult to be on that side of an ID issue. The last step then is to check in the animal with a notation on the check-in report or by clicking Check-in in FairEntry. Again, thank you for your willingness to fill this important role. You may be the first person that a new 4-H member encounters as part of their county fair experience. What you do and how you do it can make a huge difference.